What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledPeople. Alright, this story's called, Despite the Will, My Aunt Karen Thinks My Parents' Property Belongs to Her. Sorry for any mistakes in formatting and grammar, this is one of my first posts, and while English is my native language, it was also my worst subject in school, so please bear with me. This happened almost 5 years ago, and I just got notice yesterday that my entitled Aunt Karen has just died, and I got a call from her husband asking me to attend the funeral next weekend, and I declined. As did my older brother, Mark, for purposes of this story. Karen was my mother's older sister, and she constantly interfered in my mother and her children's lives. She never liked my father and always tried to tell my mother that she made a mistake by marrying him. She didn't like the name my parents picked out for my older brother, and my great-grandmother died the day before I was born. And when Karen found out they were going to name me after her, Karen freaked out and said she wanted to name her potential future kid that, so my mother couldn't use it. Then she tried to talk her out of it by saying it's too old-fashioned and kids would make fun of me, which they did, but for other reasons. See my username for a clue, Hedwig? She criticized both my brothers and my choice of friends, and even complained when I started playing softball because proper ladies didn't play sports, and if her daughter ever tried playing a sport, she would have her removed from the team. Spoiler, she never had children. The day after my 16th birthday, my parents drove on a business trip down to California. I live in Idaho. My dad said that when they got back, he would drive me to the DMV to get my license. He never did. He never did. Because on the drive to California, they hit a patch of ice, spun out, crashed, and died. I was a wreck for some time after that. I didn't even want to attend my high school graduation later because my parents wouldn't be there. Their will split everything evenly between my brother and I. At the funeral, my parents, who owned their own business, production manager Tim, was talking to my brother, and my brother told him that in a couple of weeks, he would step in and take over, and he was counting on Tim to run things smoothly until then, and help him in taking it over and learning the ropes. I had no interest in the business, other than that it was a guaranteed summer job when I was growing up, so I stayed out of it and just collected profit checks until I sold my half to Mark, and he continues to run the business to this day. Mark told Tim that he should assure the employees that their jobs were safe and that no major changes would be made. Then, one day, Aunt Karen showed up and began putting her stuff in my parents' office, and when Tim confronted her about this, she said his services were no longer needed and he was fired. Tim called Mark up, and Mark went down to the family attorney, some police, and necessary paperwork and had her removed, while she said the place was now hers because it was her sister's, so now she was the owner. As long as I have known her, she had never had a steady job, and has had 3 husbands, not counting the man who called me, never met him, and milked each one for as much as she could get until she divorced him. The next day, I was leaving for school. I walked, it was fairly close, about 10 minutes, and saw her car and moving van parked outside. She said she was moving into her house, and then said in a sickly sweet voice that for a reasonable rent, she would continue to allow me to stay there until I graduated high school. I went in and called my brother, and he again showed up with the family attorney, police, and all the paperwork and had her removed from the property. I was at school, so I didn't get to see what happened, but that night, Mark gave me a business card for a policeman who I assumed helped deal with all this, and told me that if I ever saw Aunt Karen on or near the property, to call that number and report her immediately. Don't even try to confront her or give her a warning, just call. I do know that the movers charged her to move her stuff into the van, drive across town, get turned away, and drive back across town and move her stuff back into her apartment, which she hadn't given notice yet. I got scared to the point that I didn't like letting our dog into the backyard when I was at school. I used to put her out in the yard and let her play in the fenced backyard while I was in school. For a while, I just put her in the locked and closed garage, and then cleaned up her messes when I got home in the afternoon. Eventually, Karen Karen moved to Colorado, where I assumed she met and married the man who called me and said that she had died and he couldn't find anyone from her family to attend the funeral. I chose not to tell him about her, politely said, "Sorry for your loss, but I can't make it." From discussions with Mark, he basically told him the same thing. Outside of myself, Mark, and Mark's infant daughter, I don't think she has any living relatives. I still own the house. Mark gave me his half as part of the deal where I sold him my half of the business, but still sleep in my bedroom. I refuse to move into what was once my parents' bedroom, the master bedroom. I go to the local university, go Broncos, and still miss my parents and Boise State University, ew, and still miss my parents and think about them every day. And even though I am 21 in less than 2 weeks, own a large home and have a lot of money in the bank, I would trade it all to have my parents back. But I don't care about the how or why of Aunt Karen's death. Thank you for reading and sorry for the length. Wow, she does not seem like a very pleasant person. And damn, it sucks to have lost both of his parents like that young. Gosh dang. Well, good job on, where you went with it, OP. Alright, this story's called Karen Gets Angry and Threatens to Call Cops Because Items She Wanted to Buy Scanned in at a Lower Price. So to start off, I had just started working at this major retail chain here in Australia. The department I worked in was electronics and computers. The two departments were combined. They were technically separate but shared the cashiers, if that makes sense. As mentioned, I had only recently started working there, so I still had my little learner sign up at my cash register. I was mostly fine, so the person who was supervising me was happy to leave me be as he cashiered on the other side of the cash desk. Enter Karen. She came to my side with an electric razor. I said, "Hi, how are you?" and asked if she had seen a sales representative. As usually someone in sales will do up the invoice for sales commission, she didn't say anything. She just looked at me like I had 3 eyes. I just opened up the new invoice option and asked for a phone number. She stared at me again, so I started to explain why I needed a number. It's for warranty purposes. The invoice stays on the system under the phone number for about 10 years, as we know receipts tend to fade. Most products have at least 1 year warranty. If you need it replaced, we can just ask for your number, find the invoice, and print it off. Easy peasy. She continued to stare at me. At this point, I was getting anxious and thought maybe she was mute. So I offered her the keyboard so she could type her number in. She got huffy and said, "I don't want to give you my phone number." I just said, "Okay," and put in the store's phone number, as we did need it under a phone number for stock take. We were trained to put it under the work number if they refused to give details. I took the razor and scanned it in. From memory, the price on the sticker was around $300-ish. It scanned in at about $160-ish. She did not like that. I told her the price, and she got annoyed. "It says on the sticker it's $300. Well, yes, but there'd be signs indicating its new price. The price on the sticker is just the base retail price. It'd be a waste of stickers and time to update all the products to the new price when we can— This is false advertising." This threw me off guard. She must not have seen the signs with the product. I was confused as to why she was kicking up a fuss over having to pay less for a product she wanted. Like, bruh, that's a dream come true. "Well, I can call the cops about this and you guys will get in serious trouble." I'm panicking at this point as she angrily hands me money to pay for the item. I grab her change, hand it over alongside the product and receipt. She's still going on about how illegal what we're doing is and how we're going to get in so much trouble. She then leaves with her illegal product, still ranting, and I'm still standing there baffled. I turned to my fellow cashier, who laughed about it as I told him the story and said he would have just charged her the full price for it. Now that would have been illegal. My butt fell off, I laughed too hard, oh my god. I'm still very confused as to why she got angry when she got her item for cheaper. She must have never called the police because no one ever showed up to tell us what we were doing was illegal. That, or they just laughed at her like my coworker did. As someone who's broke, how do you get angry for being charged less? I do not understand at all. Yeah, this one I'm a bit lost at. Like, what if it was like she was doing a thing with Mr. Beast, and he's like, oh, whoever gets the highest total from this store wins. And then she... But that doesn't make sense. She'd just grab a bunch of items. She wouldn't price check an individual item. Like, what? Come on, man. But that's the only possible explanation. Or maybe she's trying to scam people and she's... I don't know. This story's called The Swiss Wedding from Hell. Sorry, it's a bit of a long one. My friend is seriously wealthy. He was born in England, but moved to Switzerland in his 20s to work in his dad's aviation firm. I met him when working in Paris, 2000, and we became pretty good friends, but only really because we were in the same place at the same time, two young English guys in Paris. His dad is extremely demanding as a boss and the CEO of the company. Ever seen the HBO series Succession? His family is just like that. His father plays his three sons off against each other. They are constantly bickering with each other and trying to get their father's validation. It's painful to watch. In 2009, he called me to tell me he was getting married to a Swiss girl. I hadn't met her, but I knew she was hard work. Back in the day of cheap flights, we used to meet up around Europe. She would constantly bombard him with messages and call the entire time to find out what he was doing. He asked me to be his best man, which I gratefully accepted. He would be getting married in some weird Gothic castle in Switzerland in January. He asked to bring my wife and daughter, and we would be seated on the top table with his parents and his brothers. I was honored, but decided not to take them. My daughter had just been born 2 months before. I really didn't want to put my wife through a wedding when she just wanted to relax at home. Besides, there would be no other kids going, and it would be -4 degrees, or 24 degrees Fahrenheit, at night in some castle in the middle of nowhere. I informed him I would be going alone. He wasn't happy about it, but accepted. I felt bad and said that I would do whatever to help with the wedding. Things got weird after that. I arrived at the wedding the night before and stayed with him in his apartment. His wife-to-be was just preparing to leave and stay in a hotel for the night and wouldn't even look at me. She completely ignored me as I arrived. There were really bad vibes in the apartment, like they didn't really want me there. She just sat on the sofa in the apartment glaring at me and eventually left for the hotel. I thought it was odd, but it was their wedding, so I just smiled and went along with it. We went out for a few drinks that night, and he was a little on edge. He screamed at a waiter for no reason for about 10 minutes, but apart from that, he was okay. The next day, with a hangover, we went to the castle for the wedding. I found out that I had been removed as the best man. He never told me, and his whole family just acted as if I had completely snubbed them by not bringing my wife and newborn baby, as if I had done it on purpose to ruin the wedding. I was told to help the band set up. I lay the tables and basically be on hand to help out, which I did. As I ran around bringing in glasses and boxes of wine, all the other guests were drinking champagne in the castle. I then found out I had also been removed from the top table and put in a corner table with his work colleagues he barely knew. None of them spoke English. I just sat there for the whole of the 8-hour wedding in total disbelief. I actually went out and stood in the -4 degree temperature night outside the castle just to take a break from sitting at the table pretending to enjoy myself. At this point, the bride came around with a guest book for everybody to sign. When one of the waiters put it in front of me, the bride snatched the book and moved it on to the next person without letting me sign it. At the end of the night, the band told me I had to help them pack up. I missed the wedding bus back to the local town and had to plead with some guests to drive me back so I wouldn't have to walk in the freezing temperatures, which they did begrudgingly. I went straight to the airport, slept for a few hours, and got a flight home. Edit, it's a bit of a weird story, so I'll hopefully clear up a few things. He is actually friends with my wife. We also met in Paris, which is why I think he was a bit offended. His wife and family are bonkers. Very rich, very superficial, they all hate each other. His wife thinks I'm a bad influence. We used to go out drinking a lot back in the day. His dad is really hard on him and it's really messed with his head. I did tell him about 1 week before that my wife and child wouldn't be going, after realizing that the castle was in the middle of nowhere. I helped out like an idiot because I actually felt guilty and wanted to look like I was helping him out because his dad was being very critical of of the organization. Yo, leave it to family to ruin a wedding. Why are wedding problems so significant? I know that it's like a very complex thing, lots of stuff going on, lots of different people working and doing their thing there. But geez, 99% of the time there's a problem at a wedding. It's because some stupid relative's being a stupid relative.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.